So, if you take a washing machine and you pack it like 100% full of dirty clothes right up to the brim, the motor just grinds.
Right, it completely seizes up.
Exactly. The water can't circulate and absolutely nothing gets clean. I mean, you wouldn't do it to your appliances.
No, definitely not. You'd break them.
Right. So why do we consistently do this to our stomachs? Why do we fill them to absolute maximum capacity while, I don't know, answering emails or rushing through traffic and just assume our internal machinery will somehow figure it out?
Well, we operate under this very modern delusion that the digestive system is basically a biological trash compactor.
A trash compactor, right.
Yeah, we just think as long as the food gets down the pipe, the body's chemistry will magically dissolve it, regardless of the volume or, the actual physics of the space.
Which brings us to today. Today, we are taking a deep dive into a framework that completely dismantles that assumption. We're looking at an ancient text that treats the act of eating as a highly precise mechanical science.
It really is a science.
It is. Specifically, we're exploring Chapter 8 of the Ashtanga Hridayam, which is this foundational Ayurvedic text from centuries ago. And this specific chapter is called the Matrasatiya Ataya, which roughly translates to partaking proper quantity of food.
And just to set expectations for you listening,
Yeah.
our mission here is not to hand you some modern diet plan.
Right. No calorie counting today.
Exactly. We aren't looking at this to count macros or restrict carbohydrates.
Yeah.
We're analyzing this text because it offers a brilliant alternative paradigm for understanding the physical real estate of your own body.
Yeah.
It teaches us that digestion is not just a chemical process. It is profoundly mechanical.
Yeah.
And understanding that mechanics might just be the missing link if you constantly feel bloated, sluggish, or just internally jammed.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the text immediately establishes that proper quantity isn't a fixed number of calories. It's a dynamic equation based on two specific variables, right?
Yes, two main variables. First, there is Agni, which they define as the power of digestion. And second, Dravya Swabhava, which is basically the physical nature of the food itself.
So define Agni for us in this context.
Think of Agni as your internal metabolic fire, or like your enzymatic bandwidth. It dictates how much fuel your body can actively break down at any given moment.
Okay, that makes sense. And the second variable.
Right. Then you look at the food's Dravya Swabhava. In this framework, food is categorized primarily by its physical density and the burden it places on that fire. Like, is it light, meaning easy to break down, or is it heavy, demanding massive enzymatic resources?
And the rules applied to these categories are super rigid. Like, if you sit down to eat heavy foods, the text dictates you must only fill exactly half of your stomach's capacity.
Only half.
And even with light foods, you are instructed never to eat to the point of full satiation. But then they provide this very specific architectural formula for an optimal meal. I kind of like to call it the 2-1-1 rule.
Yeah, the geometry of this rule is fascinating. It instructs you to divide your stomach capacity into 4 theoretical quadrants.
4 parts, okay.
Right. So you fill 2 parts with solid food.
So 50% solid.
Exactly. Then 1 part is filled with liquid.
Okay.
And the final part 1, entire quarter of your stomach, must be left entirely empty.
Wow, an entire quarter just empty.
Entirely empty. They state this empty space is reserved for the movement of vata, which refers to internal air and energy.
Which brings me right back to the washing machine analogy.
Oh, absolutely.
Because that empty space at the top of the drum isn't wasted space. It's a functional, non-negotiable requirement for the agitator to actually move the clothes through the water.
That analogy holds perfectly. I mean, the ancient physicians recognized that the stomach physically churns.
Right, it's a muscle.
Exactly. If you pack a sack completely full of solid matter and liquid, the organ just cannot contract. The mechanical mixing of food and digestive fluids becomes physically impossible.
It's just stuck.
Yeah. So the text actually defines what an appropriate quantity feels like, and it has literally nothing to do with the sensation of being full.
Right. The text says appropriate quantity is simply food that digests easily without, quote, causing trouble. But, and here's my issue, trouble is a highly subjective word.
Very subjective today, yeah.
I mean, I know people who consider a 3 p.m. sugar crash or a need to unbutton their pants just a normal Tuesday. So how does this text quantify a system that is functioning without trouble?
Well, they look for the absence of very specific physical burdens. If you've eaten the correct volume, you shouldn't feel any obstruction around the heart.
Right.
There should be no pain in your flanks. You got to be able to sit, sleep, walk, and take a full, deep breath with total comfort.
A deep breath. That's a great metric.
It is. Furthermore, if you eat a meal in the morning, Your body should have completely cleared and processed it by the evening. Any deviation from that baseline means you've overloaded the machine.
Okay, so let's follow the timeline of what happens when someone completely ignores that baseline. Because the text maps out a terrifying, cascading failure of the body when you overstuff that stomach space.
Terrifying is the right word.
It starts with the vitiation of all the tridoses at once. What does that mean practically?
So vitiation basically means impairment. When you overwhelm the physical volume of the stomach, the entire systemic balance, all the governing energies of the body crashes simultaneously. The churning just stopped.
The machine is jammed.
Jammed completely.
And because it's jammed, that mass of food just sits there in a 98.6-degree environment.
It stagnates, and this stagnant, undigested food enters a state called ama.
Ama.
Yeah, you can picture it as a heavy, fermenting sludge. Now, the danger escalates dramatically if you continue to eat.
Oh, gross. So piling new food on top of the sludge.
Exactly. If this ama is forced to mix with the remnants of previous poorly digested meals, it undergoes a chemical transformation into something called amavisa.
Amavisa. And the text makes a massive claim here. It says this amavisa takes on the 10 qualities of actual poison. Like visa literally translates to poison.
It does.
Wait, so are they speaking metaphorically here because severe indigestion just feels terrible? Or did they view this as an actual physiological hazard?
No, they viewed it as profound, literal toxicity.
Really?
Yeah. While they didn't use the modern terminology of, say, gut microbiome disruption or systemic inflammation, the mechanism they describe is remarkably similar. You have decaying matter trapped in the digestive tract. It begins to putrefy.
Oh.
Right? This creates an internal poison generated entirely by your own body due to mechanical failure.
That is wild. And the text outlines a paradox in trying to treat this self-generated poison. I think this might be the most fascinating catch-22 in the entire chapter.
It really is. The contradiction in treatment is exactly why amavisa is so dangerous.
Okay, explain this.
Well, to treat the stagnant, sludgy ama, the body requires its amylon therapies. These are treatments that are hot, stimulating, and, increase the digestive fire.
Right, to melt the sludge.
Exactly. However, to treat visa, the toxic inflammatory poison, the body requires Sita therapies. Those are treatments that are cold and soothing.
Oh, wow. So the moment you introduce heat to melt the sludge, you aggravate the poison.
Yeah,
But if you introduce cold to calm the poison, you freeze the sludge.
precisely.
Yeah.
You have trapped the physician in a physiological corner. This unresolvable state leads to the severe conditions documented in the text. Like, there's a condition called Alasaka.
What happens in Alasaka?
It's characterized by an absolute blockage where food can move neither up nor down, causing just extreme distension.
Ouch. And they also detail a variant called Dandalasaka, which sounds horrific.
It is.
The text claims the vitiated doshas move, quote, sideways into the body, making the person stiff as a stick.
Right, stiff as a stick.
Moving sideways sounds strange, but if we interpret that through a modern lens, are we talking about the toxins breaching the gut lining?
That is the most logical physiological equivalent, yeah. When pressure and putrefaction build to a critical level, the gut barrier becomes compromised. Toxins leak out of the digestive tract moving sideways, as they say, and enter the bloodstream and muscular tissue.
That sounds like sepsis or severe systemic inflammation.
Exactly. This systemic flood causes massive inflammatory responses, leading to severe muscular rigidity. The text actually notes this specific condition is often fatal and beyond the scope of treatment.
Wow, fatal. They also list visuska, where the toxic material forces its way out through violent vomiting and diarrhea, accompanied by a sensation of pricking needles all over the body.
Yeah, Visuska is intense.
It proves how seriously they viewed internal stagnation. But there is a specific protocol the text mandates for treating patients in the agony of severe indigestion, which they call ajuna. And the rule is absolutely no painkillers.
Yeah, and for a modern audience accustomed to popping a pill the moment we feel discomfort, this sounds almost cruel.
Totally. Just suffer through it.
Yeah. But the logic is a masterclass in prioritizing physiological bandwidth. Remember that Agni, that digestive fire we talked about?
Right.
During severe indigestion, every ounce of your body's metabolic energy is desperately trying to process the ama, that toxic boulder blocking the system.
The fire is completely smothered.
It is entirely occupied. If you introduce a strong medicinal drug into that chaos, the body has absolutely no bandwidth left to metabolize it.
Oh, so it just sits there too.
Worse, the drug doesn't cure the pain. Instead, it binds with the undigested food and the aggravated energies. The text warns that this combination creates lethal complications.
So you have to wait.
You must let the body clear the boulder first. Only after the food is digested, even if the patient is still stiff or heavy, can you introduce medicine to clean up the residual damage.
It's basically forcing the physician to respect the body's order of operations. Like, you cannot repair the drywall while the house is still actively flooding.
Exactly. Perfect analogy.
Okay, so we've established that sheer volume breaks the machine. But let's assume I follow the 2-1-1 rule perfectly. I leave the empty quarter, but my timing is completely erratic. Does the system still break?
It breaks spectacularly.
Okay, how?
The text identifies 3 specific discarded eating practices that deal purely with timing and mixing. They warn these practices cause terrible diseases and occasionally death.
Okay, lay them on me. What's the first sin?
The first is samasana, which is the act of mixing highly wholesome and deeply unwholesome foods in the same meal, which basically confuses the digestive response.
Right, like eating a kale salad with a deep-fried candy bar.
Exactly.
Got it. And the second sin is atyasana, and this is the one that really struck me because it is the default mode of modern eating.
Yes, it is.
This is taking new food before the previous meal is fully digested. Like, we have lunch, and 2 hours later we grab a pastry from the break room. When I read the mechanics of this, I immediately thought of baking a cake.
Oh, I like this.
Yeah, so if you have a cake halfway through its 45-minute bake time and you open the oven to dump in more raw flour and raw eggs, you don't just ruin the new ingredients, you destroy the entire original batch.
That visual perfectly captures the internal disruption. You are forcing the stomach to reset its entire digestive clock while half-processed food is already sitting there.
All right.
The new, raw food ferments alongside the half-digested food. And then there's the third sin, vismasana, which involves eating irregular quantities at highly irregular times, further confusing the body's expected rhythms.
And when these timing errors inevitably lead to indigestion, the text categorizes the resulting sickness based on which dosha is dominant.
Right.
Now, for those listening who aren't familiar with Ayurvedic doshas, we're essentially talking about the body's governing physical characteristics, right?
Exactly. Think of the doshas as the body's operational environments. Kapha represents heaviness, fluid, and structure. Pitta represents heat, transformation, and metabolism. And Vata represents movement, air, and the nervous system.
Oh.
So when indigestion strikes, it manifests through one of these environments.
And the symptoms change entirely. Like, if the heavy fluid kapha is dominant, the text says you get amajirna. This features extreme nausea, lethargy, and swelling in the face.
Yes.
But if the fiery pitta is dominant, you experience vidagajirna, which involves intense thirst, burning sensations, fainting, and sour burping.
It's a very hot, acidic response.
And then if the Vata is dominant, the result is vistabdajirna, causing severe colic pain, constipation, and just a total loss of digestive power.
And because the symptoms are so distinct, the treatments have to be highly specific. You don't just treat a stomach ache, right?
Right.
For the pitta-based burning, the heat must be expelled, so they use emesis-induced vomiting. For the vata-based colic, where movement is trapped, they use sudation, which are sweating therapies to relax the tissues.
But the treatment for the kapha-based indigestion, that heavy nausea, is simply fasting.
It's just fasting, yeah.
And the text provides a metaphor for fasting here that profoundly shifted how I view skipped meals.
I love this metaphor. They compare the trapped toxins to a puddle of water on the ground.
Okay.
If you have a small